Welcome to Phoenix Comicon. This is Noah Richmond, and we are talking with Jim Shooter. I knew you as the editor of Marvel Comics. One thing I didn't realize, though, is that you had a hand in creating another title that I was a very regular reader of, which was the Legion of Superheroes comic books. And you were saying that was actually your start into the industry.
Probably the reason you didn't know anything to do with it is because they didn't put credits in the books in those days. They didn't tell you who did it. But yeah, I started on that when I was 13, 1965. And I started at Marvel in 76.
When I was first getting into comics, one of the things that really drew me to the Legion is the fact that it was a title that had so many different characters in it. Sometimes they actually would kill characters off, and it seemed like they would stay dead. And you're saying that actually went back to you.
Well, the first character they killed off, I think, was Lightning Lad, but he didn't stay dead long. They brought him back, and so my thought was, if I'm gonna, there's this, big story where big menace, and it just seemed logical that maybe they wouldn't all make it, And so, but I decided if I'm going to kill off a character, I'm not going to bring it back. It's not going to be temporary. I think after me, maybe they did that again. I don't know. But it was kind of, something different when I did it.
Right. Now, the career at Marvel, I mean, all kinds of amazing stuff happened with Frank Miller coming up, and a very rich time in comics history. After Marvel, you went and what was your hand in the start of Valiant Comics?
It was all me. I went out and I convinced Richard Bernstein at Western Publishing to license me the characters. And Richard, he was almost bought Marvel, and at one point when he was doing what they call due diligence, when he was interviewing me, which he did several times. At one point he said to me, I love this, he said, the longer I think about this, the more I think I'm buying you and used furniture. Now, he didn't mean me, he meant the creative guys, but still, that's a pretty high praise. So after I went to him after I left Marvel and said, you want some comic book characters? He said, I do? And I said, yeah, and they're good ones. And I said, I think I could revive them. First, he talked about maybe the Western would start a comic book division, but that didn't seem to be something that they were really into. So I said, well, I don't have any money yet, to start a publishing company. And he says, well, I'll hold the characters for you. He says, I'll wait. I said, wow, but that meaning to me, man, he thinks I'm worth it, So it took me 2 years, but I raised the money. In the meantime, I'd actually made a run at buying Marvel. It didn't work out. But I finally raised the money and got together with two partners, Steve Masarsky and Winston Folks, who helped me raise the money. And we started. And I created almost all the characters, or created them maybe, with some, because we had a big bullpen room. And so people were always like shouting out ideas or something, and I'd say I need a name for somebody, like it's a girl, and somebody would come up with a name, stuff like that. But it was me, and it was right up to the end of Unity. I wrote almost everything, and if I didn't write it, I probably rewrote it. I had not only a hand in creating everything, but I was the principal creator.
Now, are you having anything? There's a lot of talk now about films being made out of the Valiant properties. Is that something that you're having any kind of say in with?
No, I mean, when I worked at Valiant, of course, the definition of work for hire is that you're on the payroll, so the company owns everything. So after I left, the company first got sold, and then the company that bought them went bankrupt, and then they, got sold again, and the chain of title goes way past me now, and so other people own this stuff, and I don't even get the reprint copies, or they never call, so I don't care.
So, is there anything else that you've been working on that you would like to get the word out about?
Well, I occasionally do some small stuff for the little indie publishers. They'll call me up and they want to get like the names people have heard of on their books. So I have one here. This one. It's called bedtime stories for impressionable children. And it's published by a publisher called American Mythology that no one has ever heard of. And, you know, these little publishers usually, they don't have much money, so I mostly do it for free. However, a publisher that is not little called me recently, and I'm working on a project for Image right now. So a bunch of guys put together a project, and they asked me to come in and sort of be, not the editor, but sort of advisor. And also they want me to write 4 or 5 stories and create some characters for them. Sure, sounds like fun, you know, and hey, they can actually pay me.
Right. Yeah, fascinating. So if people want to keep up with what you're up to these days, how do they follow you?
Well, I haven't worked on it much lately, but I do have a blog. It's jimshooter.com, which is easy to remember. And I tell a lot of my old stories on the blog and you know, show artifacts from ancient history. And to some extent, keep people apprised of what I'm doing. You know, if anybody cares. Like like I said, I haven't been a little delinquent about it. I didn't publish my convention list yet, but you know, I will.
Well, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.